Well, here goes nothing. Cut it.
The basement fuse box sparked like a dying cigarette when I touched the wrong wire. 38 years old, and I still made rookie mistakes when my mind wandered. But tonight, my thoughts kept drifting upstairs to where my wife Beth claimed she was reorganizing the closets. At 9:30 on a Tuesday. Right. I'm Mick Parrish, and I've been fixing things my whole life. Electrical contractor, third generation. My grandfather started Parrish Electric in 1952. My dad expanded it, and now I run it with my brother Randy. We're good at what we do, rewiring old New England houses, industrial jobs, the occasional emergency call when Mrs. Henderson's power goes out during her soap operas. What I apparently suck at is reading the signs when my own house is falling apart. Dad? Danny's voice cracked as he stumbled down the basement stairs. My 13-year-old son looked pale, his Red Sox jersey hanging loose on his skinny frame. Dad, I need to tell you something. I set down my wire strippers and really looked at him. Danny had that shell-shocked expression kids get when they witness a car accident. What's wrong, buddy? I saw Mom upstairs. She was with some guy in your bedroom. The words tumbled out fast, like he was afraid they'd burn his mouth if he held on to them too long. He saw me watching and said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I regretted it. The screwdriver in my hand suddenly felt heavy as a hammer. What guy, Danny? I don't know his name. Tall guy, drives a silver BMW. He had his hands all over Mom, and she was laughing, and Danny's voice broke. Dad, what's happening? That was the moment I stopped caring about forgiveness. I pulled my son close, feeling his shoulders shake. It's okay, Danny. You did the right thing telling me. Go to your room and don't come out until I say so, all right? After he left, I sat in that basement for 20 minutes, staring at the fuse box. All those years of marriage, and I'd missed the most obvious short circuit of all. The late nights Beth spent out with girlfriends. The new clothes she couldn't afford on our budget. The way she'd started flinching when I touched her, like my hands carried some kind of disease. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. The house was quiet now, too quiet. Beth was in the kitchen, humming while she loaded the dishwasher. She'd changed into her pajamas, her blonde hair still perfect despite her supposed evening of closet organizing. Hey, honey, she said without turning around. How's the electrical work going? Fine. I leaned against the door frame, studying her. Closets all organized now? Oh, yes, much better. You know how I hate clutter. She finally looked at me, and for just a second I saw something flicker in her green eyes. Fear? Guilt? You look tired, Mick. Maybe you should get some rest. I nodded and headed upstairs, but not to bed. In our bedroom, I found what Danny must have seen, the comforter rumpled on the wrong side, a cologne smell that definitely wasn't mine, and a lipstick stain on one of my pillowcases. Beth had always been careful, but apparently not careful enough. Under the bed, I found a hotel receipt dated 3 days ago, the Riverside Inn, 2 hours away. Beth had told me she was visiting her sister that day. I set up my phone to record audio and tucked it behind the alarm clock. Then I went back downstairs. Beth, we need to talk. She was wiping down counters that were already clean. Can it wait until tomorrow? I'm exhausted. No, it can't wait. I sat at the kitchen table and gestured to the chair across from me. Sit down. She must have heard something in my voice because she stopped pretending to clean and sat down, her hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl called to the principal's office. I know about the affair. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. Beth's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, denial, calculation, and finally, cold anger. I don't know what you're talking about. Danny saw you, tonight, in our bedroom. Her jaw tightened. Danny's confused. He's been having problems at school, you know that. His imagination runs wild. So you're calling our son a liar? I'm saying he misunderstood something innocent. She leaned forward, her voice taking on that sweet tone she used when she wanted something. Mick, honey, you're being paranoid. This isn't like you. But I was already pulling out the hotel receipt. I slid it across the table like a poker player showing his hand. The Riverside Inn, 3 days ago. Want to explain this? Beth stared at the receipt, and I watched her mentally scramble for an explanation. I stopped there for coffee on my way to Sarah's house. They have that little cafe in the lobby, remember? A coffee that cost $237? I bought some gifts from their gift shop for Sarah's birthday. The lies came so easily, I wondered how long she'd been practicing them, How many other receipts had she hidden? How many other lies had I swallowed without question? Who is he, Beth? There is no he, Mick. You're letting your imagination. I slammed my hand on the table, hard enough to make the salt shaker jump. Don't. Don't you dare sit there and lie to my face when our son is upstairs traumatized by what he saw. For the first time, Beth's mask slipped completely. The sweet, innocent wife disappeared, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I'm seeing someone. Someone who appreciates me, who doesn't take me for granted, who doesn't smell like electrical wire and sweat when he comes home. How long? 6 months. She said it like she was proud of it. And before you start playing the victim, maybe you should ask yourself why I needed to look elsewhere for affection. So, this is my fault? You work 60 hours a week, Mick. When you're home, you're in that garage, tinkering with something or buried in paperwork. When's the last time we went out to dinner? When's the last time you bought me flowers or told me I looked beautiful? When's the last time you acted like you wanted me to? She laughed, a bitter sound that made my skin crawl. There it is. The real Mick Parrish. Everything's everyone else's fault, isn't it? Poor Mick, working so hard to provide for his ungrateful family. I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum. I want him out of my house. Tonight. And I want you to end it. Or what? Or I'll end it for you. Beth stood too, her chin raised in defiance. You don't get to give me ultimatums, Mick. I'm not one of your employees. No, you're my wife. Or you were. I still am, and I'll do whatever I want with whomever I want. You don't own me. I stared at her, this stranger wearing my wife's face, and felt something cold settle in my chest. We'll see about that. That night, I slept in the guest room, staring at the ceiling until dawn. Beth never came to apologize, never tried to explain or make things right. I could hear her on the phone in our bedroom, whispering to someone in the kind of voice she used to use with me. By morning, I'd made my decision. If Beth wanted to play games, I'd teach her the rules. But first, I needed to know who I was playing against. The next morning, Beth acted like nothing had happened. She made breakfast for the kids, kissed them goodbye, and told me she'd be running errands all day. Maddie, our 15-year-old, barely looked up from her phone. She'd inherited her mother's blonde hair and attitude, and lately she treated me like an annoying roommate rather than her father. Danny, though, kept shooting worried glances between Beth and me. Smart kid. He could feel the tension crackling in the air like a live wire. After everyone left, I called my brother Randy. I need a favor, I said when he answered. What kind of favor? Randy had been my business partner for 8 years and my best friend for life. He could read my moods better than anyone. The kind that requires your truck and your complete discretion. Jesus, Mick, what's going on? Beth's cheating on me. I need to find out who with... Randy was quiet for a long moment. You sure about this? I mean, Beth's always been... Always been what? Nothing. Forget I said anything. What do you need me to do? That afternoon, Randy and I sat in his pickup truck outside Sheer Elegance, the salon where Beth got her hair done every Thursday. We didn't have to wait long. At 2:30, Beth walked out looking like she was ready for a magazine cover. But instead of heading home, she drove to the parking lot of Murphy's hardware store and sat there for 10 minutes. What's she doing? Randy asked, adjusting his Red Sox cap, waiting for someone. Sure enough, a silver BMW pulled up next to Beth's Honda. The driver got out and I felt my stomach drop. I recognized him. Darren Joslin, DJ to his friends. Local real estate hotshot, son of retired police chief Tom Joslin. The kind of guy who wore expensive suits to the grocery store and talked loud enough to make sure everyone heard his important phone calls. DJ was everything I wasn't. Tall, polished, the kind of handsome that came from good genes and better dental work. He slid into Beth's passenger seat like he belonged there. That's DJ Joslin, Randy said, his voice flat. Figures. You know him? Know of him. Real piece of work. Sells overpriced houses to people who can't afford them, then acts surprised when they lose everything. Word is he's been sleeping with half his female clients. I watched through binoculars as Beth laughed at something DJ said, her hand resting on his thigh. The casual intimacy of it hit me harder than her confession had. This wasn't just sex. This was a relationship. How long you think this has been going on? Randy asked. She said 6 months, but looking at them together, I'd say longer. They talked for 20 minutes before DJ got out and drove away. Beth sat in her car for another few minutes, probably making sure the coast was clear, then headed home. That evening, I pretended to work in the garage while actually researching DJ Joslin online. The guy had a flashy website full of testimonials and photos of himself shaking hands with satisfied customers. His social media was all expensive restaurants, golf courses, and motivational quotes about success. But when I dug deeper, using some contacts from my commercial electrical work, I found more interesting information. DJ had been sued twice for misrepresenting properties. He'd been engaged 3 times, but never married. And according to Kylie Morrison, who did bookkeeping for half the businesses in town, DJ's real estate agency was struggling financially. Kylie had always been a gossip, but she was also Randy's on and off girlfriend, which made her information reliable. When Randy called her that night, she was more than happy to share what she knew. "Oh, honey, DJ Jocelyn is bad news," Kylie's voice carried through Randy's speakerphone. "He's been sniffing around married women for years. Always picks the ones with something to lose. Money, reputation, stable husbands. He's like a parasite." "What's his angle with Beth?" I asked. "Well, no offense, Mick, but Parish Electric is pretty successful. You guys own your building, got that big industrial contract with the mill, nice house in a good neighborhood. To a guy like DJ, Beth probably looks like a meal ticket." "And Beth?" Kylie was quiet for a moment. "Beth's always been ambitious. Remember when you guys first got married? She talked about wanting a bigger house, fancier cars, country club memberships. I think she got tired of waiting for you to provide that lifestyle." After Randy hung up, we sat in my garage drinking beer and planning. The old Mick would have confronted Beth again, maybe suggested marriage counseling, tried to save what was left of our relationship. But the old Mick hadn't watched his son's innocence shatter or listened to his wife defend her betrayal. "So what's the play?" Randy asked. I took a long pull from my beer and smiled for the first time in days. "DJ thinks he's playing chess with a checker player. Time to show him how wrong he is." The next morning, I started with something simple. DJ's BMW was parked outside Rossetti's Cafe, where he apparently held court every Friday morning. I walked by casually, like I was heading to the hardware store next door, and used my pocket knife to let the air out of all 4 tires. Not slashed. I wasn't stupid enough to leave evidence of vandalism. Just deflated, the kind of thing that could happen to anyone with old valve stems. But I left a note under his windshield wiper. "You picked the wrong toolbox. A concerned citizen." Then I went to work and waited. DJ called me at 11:30, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "I know this was you, Parrish. I'm sorry. Who is this? Don't play dumb with me. This is DJ Jocelyn, and I know you messed with my car." "DJ Jocelyn? Oh, right, you're the real estate guy. Why would you think I did something to your car?" "I'm at work running electrical wire through Mrs. Patterson's attic. You want to talk to her?" "Stay away from me and my property, or what?" I let some steel creep into my voice. "You'll do what exactly, DJ?" The line was quiet for a moment. "Just stay away." Funny advice, coming from someone who can't seem to stay away from other people's property. I hung up before he could respond, but not before hitting record on my phone app. If DJ wanted to play games, I'd make sure I had documentation. That afternoon, Beth came home earlier than usual, her face flushed with anger. "What did you do to DJ?" "Who's DJ?" I asked, not looking up from the electrical permit I was reviewing. "Don't play stupid, Mick. Someone vandalized his car and left a threatening note." "Sounds like he's made some enemies. Probably comes with the territory when you're in the business of screwing people." Beth's eyes narrowed. "I know it was you. Prove it." "This has to stop. You're acting like a child." I finally looked up at her, and she must have seen something in my expression that made her take a step back. "No, Beth. What has to stop is you bringing your boyfriend into my house around my children. What has to stop is you lying to my face and expecting me to smile about it. What has to stop is you treating our marriage like it's some kind of joke. I never brought him here when the kids were— Danny saw you, remember? In our bedroom. Our son is having nightmares because of what you've done." For a moment, Beth looked genuinely stricken, but then her defenses went back up. "Maybe if you paid half as much attention to me as you do to your electrical work, none of this would have happened. And maybe if you had half the integrity of a broken circuit breaker, we wouldn't be having this conversation." That night, DJ called again. This time, I was ready. "Listen to me very carefully." His voice was low and menacing. "I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but it ends now. Beth is with me because she wants to be. You can either accept that like a man, or I can make your life very unpleasant." "Is that a threat, DJ?" "It's a promise. I've got friends in this town, Parrish. Friends who can make problems for your business, your reputation, your family, back off or find out what happens when you mess with the wrong person. Funny thing about threats, DJ, they work both ways. I hung up and immediately saved the recording to my cloud storage. Then I made copies and sent them to Randy, Kylie, and my lawyer. DJ had just made a critical error. He'd threatened my family. Now, the gloves were coming off. Saturday morning brought the first real test of how far DJ was willing to go. I was in the garage, organizing my tool cabinet, when I heard glass breaking in the driveway. Randy's pickup truck sat with its passenger window shattered, safety glass scattered across the seat like diamonds. A baseball lay on the floorboard with a note wrapped around it. Next time it won't be the truck. I called Randy immediately. Someone put a baseball through your passenger window. Jesus, where was this? My driveway. They left a note. Randy was quiet for a moment. This is escalating fast, Mick. Maybe we should call the cops. And tell them what? That someone who may or may not be connected to my wife's affair threw a baseball at a truck? They'll take a report and file it away. So what do we do? I looked at the broken glass, thinking about DJ's threats, about Danny's nightmares, about Beth's complete lack of remorse. We send a message back. That evening, Beth took the kids to her sister's house for dinner. She'd been doing that more often lately, probably to give herself alibis for her errands with DJ. It also gave me the perfect opportunity to do some reconnaissance. DJ lived in Harbor Heights, the expensive development on the north side of town where all the houses looked like they belonged in a magazine. His place was a colonial with a 3-car garage, professional landscaping, and a security system that was more for show than actual protection. Randy and I parked 2 blocks away and walked through the woods behind DJ's house. The BMW was in the driveway, along with a red Mustang convertible that probably cost more than most people made in a year. Nice toys for a struggling real estate agent, Randy muttered. Yeah, makes you wonder where the money's really coming from. We waited until midnight, then made our move. I'd brought a bag of sand from a construction site and a funnel. While Randy kept watch, I poured sand into the BMW's gas tank. Not enough to destroy the engine, but enough to cause serious problems. Then I used a screwdriver to scratch a message into the paint on the driver's side door. Stop. But the real message was what we left on his windshield, a printout of his threatening phone call with a note attached. Threatening families is a crime. Back off, or this goes to the police, your real estate board, and everyone else who might be interested. The guy with the toolbox. We were back home by 1 a.m., and I slept better than I had in weeks. Sunday morning, my phone rang at 8:30. DJ's voice was shaking with rage. You son of a bitch! You destroyed my car! Good morning, DJ. Beautiful Sunday, isn't it? Perfect day for church. Don't play games with me! I know you sabotaged my BMW! That's a serious accusation. I hope you have proof, because making false claims could be considered harassment. I've got your little note, asshole. What note would that be? The one reminding you that threatening families is illegal? Because I think that's just good citizenship, personally. DJ was breathing hard, and I could picture him pacing around his perfect house, trying to figure out his next move. This isn't over, Parrish. No, it's not, but it could be. All you have to do is stay away from my wife and my family. Simple as that. Beth doesn't want to stay away from me. Then Beth can make that choice after she's divorced and living somewhere else. Until then, you're trespassing on my marriage, and I don't like trespassers. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer, Jim Morrison, Kylie's uncle, which made information sharing very convenient. Jim had handled my business contracts for years, and I trusted him completely. I need to start divorce proceedings, I told him. I'm sorry to hear that, Mick. What grounds? Adultery. I've got evidence. Good. In New Hampshire, adultery affects property division and custody. Document everything: dates, times, witnesses, financial irregularities. And Mick, be careful. Divorce can bring out the worst in people. It already has. That afternoon, Beth came home alone. The kids were staying overnight at her sister's, which meant we could have an honest conversation without traumatizing them further. DJ's car was vandalized last night, she said without preamble. Really? That's terrible. This town's going downhill. Cut the act, Mick. I know you did it. I looked up from the electrical journal I was reading. Beth, I was home all night. You can check the security system logs if you want. She had no answer for that, mainly because I disabled the motion sensors in the backyard earlier that week. The system would show I'd never left through the front door, which was technically true. This has to stop, she said. DJ's talking about going to the police. What's he going to tell them? That someone vandalized his car after he threatened a family? I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. Beth sat down across from me, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 16 years ago. Mick, what do you want from me? I want you to end the affair and try to save our marriage. And if I can't do that, then I want you to leave, file for divorce, take what's legally yours, and start your new life with DJ. But don't expect me to sit quietly while you destroy our family. The kids need stability. The kids need parents who aren't at war. Right now, that means parents who live in separate houses. Beth was quiet for a long time. DJ won't like this. I don't give a damn what DJ likes. This is between you and me. No, it's not anymore. You made it about him when you started harassing him. I closed the journal and gave her my full attention. I made it about him when I found out he was sleeping with my wife and threatening my son. Everything that's happened since then has been a direct response to his actions. He never threatened Danny. Danny says different, and I believe my son over your boyfriend. That hit home. Beth flinched like I'd slapped her. He's not just my boyfriend, Mick. I love him. Do you? Or do you love what he represents? The fancy car, the expensive dinners, the promise of a lifestyle I can't provide. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Beth, but it's reality. She stood up, her jaw set in that stubborn line I knew so well. I'm not ending it with DJ, and I'm not leaving my house or my children. Then we have a problem. Yes, we do. After she left to pick up the kids, I sat in the garage and made a list. DJ had escalated to property damage and threats. Beth was refusing to end the affair or leave. The kids were caught in the middle, with Danny traumatized and Maddie starting to ask questions about why Mom and Dad weren't talking. Something had to give, and it wasn't going to be me. I called Randy. How do you feel about a little more direct action? What did you have in mind? It's time to make this public. DJ's been counting on this staying quiet, keeping his reputation intact while he plays house with my wife. Let's see how he handles some community attention. Mick, are you sure about this? Once we go public, there's no taking it back. I thought about Danny's nightmares, about Maddie's confused questions, about Beth's complete lack of remorse. There's already no taking it back, Randy. The question is whether I'm going to let them destroy my family quietly or make some noise about it. All right then, what's the plan? I smiled, feeling that cold certainty settle in my chest again. DJ likes being the big shot around town, right? Let's give him some attention he'll never forget. The war was about to go public, and I intended to win it. Monday morning, I put the first phase of my plan into action. The Copper Tap was the unofficial town hall of our little community, a dive bar where everyone from construction workers to bank managers gathered to drink beer, watch sports, and share gossip. If you wanted information to spread, you started at the tap. I arrived at 5:30, right when the after-work crowd was settling in. Kylie was already there, holding court at her usual spot near the dartboard. She waved me over with the enthusiasm of someone who lived for drama. Mick, Randy told me about the truck window. You okay, honey? I'm fine, Kylie, but I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. Her eyes lit up. Of course, sweetie. What do you need? What do people around town really think of DJ Jocelyn? Kylie glanced around to make sure we wouldn't be overheard, then leaned in conspiratorially. Honestly, most people think he's a snake. He screwed over half the families in town with his real estate deals, and everyone knows he's been sleeping around for years. Anyone ever call him out on it? Who's going to? His daddy was police chief for 20 years, and DJ's got money and connections. People just avoid him and hope he doesn't target their wives. What if someone had proof of what he was doing? Real evidence. Kylie's eyes widened. Oh, honey, what kind of proof? I pulled out my phone and played DJ's threatening voicemail. Kylie listened with growing excitement, her hand covering her mouth in shock. He threatened your family? That bastard actually threatened Danny? He did, and that's just what I can prove. Within an hour, half the bar had heard the recording. By the time I left, people were looking at me with sympathy instead of the awkward avoidance I'd been getting since word of Beth's affair started spreading. Tuesday brought the next phase. I had a legitimate electrical job at the elementary school, rewiring the gymnasium. It put me in contact with teachers, parents, and school administrators, all people who cared about child safety. When Principal Martinez asked how I was holding up, I made sure my voice carried to the group of parents waiting in the hallway. It's been tough, Mrs. Martinez. Finding out your wife is having an affair is bad enough, but when her boyfriend threatens your 13-year-old son for witnessing something inappropriate, Well, that changes everything. The parents' heads turned immediately. I didn't name names, but in a town this size, everyone would know who I was talking about within hours. Someone threatened Danny? Mrs. Patterson gasped. She'd known Danny since kindergarten. I've got it recorded. The man actually called my house and threatened to make my family's life unpleasant if I didn't back off from my own wife. That's horrible. Have you gone to the police? I'm considering it. But you know how these things go. He's got connections, and I'm just an electrician trying to protect his kids. By Wednesday, the whole town was buzzing. I could see it in the way people looked at me with sympathy, and at DJ with disgust when he showed up at Murphy's Hardware. He tried to maintain his usual swagger, but I could tell the whispers were getting to him. Thursday night, everything came to a head at Maddie's volleyball game. Beth was there with the other parents, playing the role of supportive mother while texting constantly on her phone. I sat on the opposite side of the gym, cheering for my daughter and trying to ignore the pitying looks from other parents. DJ showed up halfway through the second set, sliding into the seat next to Beth like he belonged there. The audacity of it took my breath away, bringing her boyfriend to our daughter's school event, in front of the entire community. I watched them together, Beth leaning into DJ's shoulder while he put his arm around her possessively. They were making a statement, claiming their relationship publicly for the first time. Fine. If they wanted to go public, I'd give them public. During the break between sets, I walked over to where they were sitting. The conversations around us gradually died as people sensed drama brewing. Beth, I said calmly, Maddie's looking for you. She wants to know if you're coming to the team dinner on Friday. Of course I'm coming, Beth replied, her voice tight. Great. And DJ. I turned to face him directly. I didn't expect to see you here. Don't you think it's a little inappropriate showing up at my daughter's school event? DJ's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice level. I'm here to support Maddie. She's a great kid. She is. And as her father, I'm very protective of her and her brother, especially after recent events. What recent events? DJ's voice had an edge now. Oh, threatening phone calls, property damage, that sort of thing. The kind of behavior that makes a parent worry about their children's safety. The gym had gone completely quiet. Even the players on the court were watching our exchange. DJ stood up, his face flushed. I never threatened anyone's children. Really? Because I have a recording that says otherwise. I pulled out my phone. Would you like me to play it for everyone here? You son of a... DJ took a step toward me, his fists clenched. Careful, DJ, we're in a school, surrounded by children and witnesses. Wouldn't want to do something you'd regret. Beth grabbed DJ's arm. Let's just go. But DJ shook her off, his composure finally cracking. I'm tired of your games, Parrish. You want to do this? Let's do it. Do what exactly? Are you threatening me? Again? In front of all these people? DJ looked around and seemed to realize where he was. In a packed gymnasium, with parents and children watching his every move. His reputation was hanging by a thread, and I'd just handed him the scissors. This isn't over, he said quietly. No, it's not. But next time you want to continue this conversation, maybe don't do it around children. Some of us actually care about their well-being. DJ stormed out, leaving Beth sitting alone with everyone staring at her. She followed him a moment later, but not before I saw the humiliation and anger in her eyes. Maddie found me after the game, her face flushed from playing and confusion. Dad, what was that about? Why was everyone staring? It's complicated, sweetheart. Your mom and I are having some problems, and sometimes adults handle things badly. Is it because of that man she's been seeing? My heart broke a little. You know about that? I'm not stupid, Dad. She's been acting weird for months, and Danny told me what he saw. Maddie looked older than her 15 years. Are you guys getting divorced? I don't know yet, honey, but whatever happens, your mom and I both love you and Danny very much. This isn't your fault, and it's not your responsibility to fix. That night, Beth came home furious. How dare you humiliate me like that in front of the whole school? I didn't humiliate you, Beth. You did that yourself by bringing your boyfriend to our daughter's game. DJ cares about Maddie. DJ cares about marking his territory. There's a difference. You recorded him? You actually recorded a private phone conversation? A phone conversation where he threatened our family? You're damn right I recorded it. And if he keeps pushing, I'll make sure everyone in town hears it. Beth stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I've always been, Beth. The difference is, I'm not letting people walk all over me anymore, including you. This isn't you, Mick. You're not vindictive or cruel. You're right. The old me would have quietly accepted your affair, maybe gone to counseling, definitely blamed myself for not being good enough. But the old me didn't have to watch his son have nightmares or listen to his wife's boyfriend threaten his family. DJ never meant, I don't care what he meant. I care what he said and what he did. And if he keeps pushing, he's going to find out exactly how vindictive and cruel I can be. Beth left that night, taking a suitcase and telling the kids she was staying at her sister's for a few days. But I knew better. She was moving in with DJ, finally making the choice she'd been dancing around for months. Friday morning, Randy found me in the garage, staring at the wall where Beth's car used to be parked. How are you holding up? She's gone. Moved in with DJ last night. I'm sorry, man. Don't be. At least now everyone knows where they stand. Randy sat down on an overturned crate. So, what's next? I thought about DJ's humiliation at the volleyball game, about Beth's choice to abandon her family for a man who threatened children, about my kids having to navigate this mess without their mother. Now we finish it. Mick, no, Randy. They wanted to play hardball. They wanted to make this public and ugly. Fine. But they're going to learn that I don't lose at games I didn't start. The war had entered its final phase, and I intended to make sure there was only one man left standing when the smoke cleared. Beth's departure changed everything. Without her there to maintain the pretense of a normal family, the kids and I had to face reality. Danny actually seemed relieved. The constant tension had been harder on him than I'd realized. Maddie was angry at everyone, but especially at her mother for choosing DJ over her family. She's not even answering my texts, Maddie said Friday night as we ate pizza in the living room. I asked her about coming to my tournament next weekend, and she just said she'd try to make it. Your mom's going through a difficult time, I said, though the words tasted bitter. No, Dad, you're going through a difficult time. Mom's just being selfish. Out of the mouths of babes. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. DJ's friend Shane Murphy showed up at my house, all 6'3" and 250 pounds of him. Shane had been DJ's muscle since high school, the kind of guy who solved problems with his fists and asked questions later. I was working under the hood of my truck when Shane's shadow fell across me. We need to talk, Parrish. I didn't look up from the alternator I was replacing. About what? About you backing off DJ. This whole thing has gone too far. I agree. Your friend should have thought about that before he started sleeping with my wife and threatening my kids. Shane grabbed my shoulder and spun me around. I'm not asking, Parrish. I'm telling. Leave DJ alone or things are going to get unpleasant. I looked down at his hand on my shoulder, then back up at his face. Shane, I'm going to give you one chance to remove your hand and walk away. After that, things are going to get very unpleasant for you. Shane laughed. You? You're going to make things unpleasant for me? You're a skinny electrician, Parrish. I could break you in half. Maybe, but I'm a skinny electrician with a lot of experience handling high voltage, and you're standing in a puddle wearing steel-toed boots. Want to find out what happens when I touch these jumper cables to that water? Shane looked down at the puddle by his feet, then at the jumper cables in my hand, connected to my truck's running battery. His grip on my shoulder loosened. That's better, I said. Now here's how this is going to work. You're going to walk away and never come back to my property. If I see you around my kids, my business, or anywhere else I happen to be, I'm going to assume you're here to cause trouble and act accordingly. DJ's not going to like this. DJ can come talk to me himself if he has something to say. But if he sends you or anyone else to threaten me or my family, I'll make sure the whole town knows what kind of man he really is. Shane left, but not before kicking over my toolbox in a display of petulant anger. I let him go, but I also called Randy and asked him to keep an eye on the house when I wasn't there. That afternoon, I got a call from Kylie. Honey, you need to know something. Beth and DJ were at the Riverside Inn last night, and they were not being discreet. Half the town saw them in the restaurant, and DJ was drunk and loud, talking about how he'd won, and you were yesterday's news. What else did he say? He was bragging about how Beth was going to take you for everything in the divorce, how he was going to be living in your house and driving your cars within 6 months. Real classy stuff. That night, I sat in my garage and made a decision. DJ thought he'd won because Beth had chosen him. He thought he could humiliate me publicly and I'd slink away defeated. He was wrong on both counts. Sunday morning, I drove to Harbor Heights and parked across the street from DJ's house. Beth's Honda was in the driveway next to his BMW, making their living arrangement official. I sat there for an hour, not doing anything, just watching. At 10:30, they came out together, dressed for what looked like a country club brunch. DJ was wearing a golf shirt and khakis, playing the part of the successful businessman. Beth wore a sundress I'd never seen before, probably bought with money from our joint account. They looked happy, relaxed, like they didn't have a care in the world, like they hadn't destroyed a 16-year marriage and traumatized 2 children to get to this point. I followed them at a distance to the Riverside Country Club, where DJ was apparently a member. I couldn't get inside, but I didn't need to. I just needed to confirm what Kylie had told me. They were flaunting their relationship, making sure everyone knew DJ had won. That afternoon, I called Jim Morrison. I want to accelerate the divorce proceedings. What's changed? Beth moved in with her boyfriend. She's using our joint accounts to fund her new lifestyle, and she's essentially abandoned the children. That's good for us in terms of custody and asset division. But Mick, I have to ask, are you planning anything stupid? Because if you are, it could hurt your case. Define stupid. Anything that could be construed as harassment, stalking, or intimidation. The courts don't look kindly on that sort of behavior, regardless of how justified you might feel. I'm not planning to do anything illegal, Jim. But I am planning to make sure the whole town knows exactly what kind of people they're dealing with. Be careful. Public humiliation can backfire if you're not smart about it. Monday morning, I put my plan into action. I started with DJ's professional reputation, calling the real estate board to file a formal complaint about his threatening phone calls. I had the recordings, and threatening clients' families was definitely against their professional conduct standards. Then, I called his former clients, the ones Randy and I had identified through public records. I didn't have to lie or exaggerate. I just asked if they'd been satisfied with DJ's services and if they'd recommend him to others. The answers were enlightening. "That bastard cost us our house," said Mrs. Chen, whose family had bought a property DJ knew had foundation problems. "He swore it was a great investment, then disappeared when the basement started flooding. He tried to seduce my wife during the closing process," said Tom Bradley. "Right in front of me, like I wasn't even there. We should have sued him." By Wednesday, I had enough ammunition to destroy DJ's career, but I wanted something more personal, something that would hurt him the way he'd hurt my family. That's when Kylie called with the perfect opportunity. "Honey, you're going to love this. DJ's throwing a party this Saturday night, some kind of housewarming thing to show off his new domestic situation. Half the town's invited, including some people who definitely don't approve of what he's been doing." "Interesting. Tell me more." "Well, Beth's been calling it their engagement party, but DJ's been telling people it's just a casual get-together. Sounds like they're not on the same page about their future." "Even more interesting." "There's something else, Mick. Beth's been asking people about you, whether you're dating anyone, how you're handling the divorce, that sort of thing. I think she's having second thoughts. Too late for that. Maybe, but it might be useful information." Saturday night, I put on my best shirt and drove to Harbor Heights. DJ's party was in full swing, with cars lining the street and music drifting from the backyard. I parked 2 blocks away and walked up to the front door like I'd been invited. DJ answered the door himself, his face going pale when he saw me. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I came to congratulate you, DJ. I heard you were celebrating your engagement." "We're not engaged." "Really? Because that's what Beth's been telling people." "Interesting miscommunication." DJ stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "You need to leave. Now." "Actually, I think I'll stay. This is a public celebration, right? And I have something I'd like to share with your guests. If you cause a scene..." "Oh, I'm definitely going to cause a scene. The question is whether you want it to happen inside with your guests watching or out here where only the neighbors can see." DJ looked trapped, which was exactly how I wanted him. "What do you want?" "I want you to tell everyone the truth about how this relationship started. I want you to admit that you threatened my children. And I want you to explain to Beth why you've been telling people you're not engaged while she's been planning a wedding. You're insane. Maybe. But I'm also done being the nice guy while you and my wife destroy my family." Before DJ could respond, the front door opened and Beth stepped out. She'd been drinking, and her face was flushed with alcohol and anger. "What is he doing here?" she demanded. "I invited myself," I said. "Hope you don't mind. I wanted to see how the other half lives." "You need to leave, Mick. This is harassment." "Is it? I'm just a concerned citizen checking on my wife's well-being. Speaking of which, congratulations on your engagement. DJ must be so excited. Beth looked confused. What? Your engagement? You know, the one you've been telling everyone about? The reason for this party? Beth turned to DJ, her expression shifting from confusion to hurt. You told me this was our engagement party. Beth, we talked about this. No, you talked. You said we'd announce our engagement tonight. DJ looked like a man caught between two live wires. We agreed to take things slow. Slow? Beth's voice rose. I left my husband for you. I moved in with you. What part of that is slow? The front door opened again, and several party guests spilled out to see what the commotion was about. Perfect. Folks, I said loudly, sorry to interrupt your party, but I thought you might be interested in hearing something. I pulled out my phone and played DJ's threatening voicemail at full volume. His voice filled the night air. I can make your life very unpleasant. I've got friends in this town who can make problems for your business, your reputation, your family. The guests stood in stunned silence as DJ's threats played out for everyone to hear. That's my 13-year-old son he's talking about, I said when the recording ended. The boy he threatened for witnessing him with my wife. DJ lunged at me, but I was ready. I sidestepped and let his momentum carry him into the brick mailbox post. He went down hard, blood streaming from his nose. DJ! Beth rushed to help him, but he shoved her away. This is your fault, he screamed at her. I never wanted any of this. You were supposed to be easy money, not a lifetime commitment. The words hit Beth like a physical blow. She staggered backward, finally seeing DJ for what he really was. Easy money? She whispered. You think I wanted to be stuck with someone else's kids and a wife who's already proved she's a cheater? I was having fun, Beth. That's all this was. The party guests were recording everything on their phones now. By morning, the whole town would know exactly what kind of man DJ Jocelyn really was. Beth looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Mick, No, I said firmly. You made your choice, Beth. You chose him over your family, over your children, over 16 years of marriage. You don't get to take it back now that you've seen who he really is. I turned to address DJ's guests, many of whom I recognized from around town. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for disrupting your evening, but I thought you should know exactly what kind of man you're celebrating. DJ Jocelyn threatens children, destroys families, and apparently sees married women as easy money. Just thought you should know who you're dealing with. I walked away, leaving DJ bleeding on his perfect lawn, Beth crying in her expensive dress, and their guests recording every moment of their humiliation. By Sunday morning, the videos were all over social media. DJ's real estate career was finished, his reputation destroyed, his relationship with Beth in ruins. But I wasn't done yet. The fallout from Saturday night's party was swift and devastating. By Sunday afternoon, 3 different videos of DJ's meltdown had gone viral locally, and his real estate agency had already started fielding angry calls from clients and the state licensing board. Beth showed up at my house Sunday evening, her eyes red from crying, and her expensive dress replaced by jeans and a t-shirt. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the reality of what she'd thrown away. Can we talk? She asked when I opened the door. The kids are upstairs doing homework. Keep your voice down. She followed me to the kitchen, the same place where this whole mess had started weeks ago, but now the dynamic had completely shifted. Beth was the one asking for mercy, and I was the one holding all the cards. I made a mistake, she began. You made a lot of mistakes, Beth. Which one are you referring to? All of them. The affair, leaving you, believing DJ when he said he loved me. Her voice cracked. I threw away everything for a man who saw me as easy money. Yes, you did. I want to come home, Mick. I want to fix this. I studied her face, looking for signs of the woman I'd married 16 years ago. She was still there, buried under layers of poor choices and shattered illusions. But she was there. It's too late for that, Beth. Please, Mick. I know I hurt you and the kids, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling, start over. No, we can't. You didn't just hurt me, Beth. You traumatized our son, confused our daughter, and chose another man over your family. There's no coming back from that. But DJ's gone now. I left him after what he said at the party. It's over. You left him because he humiliated you publicly and admitted he was using you. If he'd proposed marriage like you wanted, you'd still be there. Beth couldn't argue with that because we both knew it was true. What about the kids? She asked. They need their mother. They need a mother who puts them first. You've proven that's not you. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that Danny has nightmares about strange men threatening him? Is it fair that Maddie had to watch her mother choose a boyfriend over her family? Is it fair that I had to listen to my wife defend the man who threatened our children? Beth flinched with each question, but I wasn't done. You made your choice, Beth. You chose DJ over us, chose excitement over stability, chose yourself over everyone else. Now you have to live with the consequences. I was unhappy, Mick. I felt trapped, ignored, taken for granted. So you decided to blow up our family instead of talking to me about it. I tried to talk to you, but you were always working, always busy with some electrical project or business crisis. And you were always shopping, always out with friends, always finding reasons to avoid spending time with your family. We both contributed to the problems in our marriage, Beth, but only one of us decided to solve them by sleeping with someone else. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 16 years of marriage and its destruction hanging between us. What happens now? Beth asked finally. Now you find somewhere else to live while we work out the divorce details. Jim Morrison will be in touch with your lawyer about custody arrangements and property division. I don't have a lawyer. Then you better get one. And Beth, given your recent choices, I wouldn't expect the custody arrangement to be particularly generous. She started crying again, but I felt no sympathy. I'd used up all my compassion for Beth Parrish weeks ago. Monday morning brought more good news. DJ's real estate license had been suspended pending investigation, and 3 former clients had filed formal complaints against him. The man who'd thought he could threaten my family and steal my wife was learning that actions have consequences. Kylie called around noon with the latest gossip. Honey, you are not going to believe this. DJ's been evicted from his fancy house in Harbor Heights. Turns out he was 3 months behind on the mortgage and only kept up appearances by borrowing against his business. Interesting. Where's he living now? His mother's basement, from what I hear, and Beth's staying at that cheap motel out on Route 9, the one with the hourly rates. The irony was perfect. The woman who'd left me for a more glamorous lifestyle was now living in a Fleabag motel, while her boyfriend had moved back in with his mother. But the real victory came Tuesday afternoon, when Principal Martinez called to tell me that DJ had been banned from all school property after several parents complained about his presence at the volleyball game. We take threats against students very seriously, Mr. Parrish, she said. I want you to know that DJ Jocelyn will not be allowed anywhere near our children. I appreciate that, Mrs. Martinez. My kids' safety is my top priority. Of course. And Mr. Parrish, I hope you know that the entire school community supports you and your family during this difficult time. Wednesday brought the final piece of the puzzle. Jim Morrison called with an update on the divorce proceedings. Beth's lawyer wants to negotiate, he said. Apparently, she's realized that her adultery and abandonment of the children have put her in a very weak position. What are they offering? Essentially, she'll accept minimal custody every other weekend and 1 evening per week in exchange for a quick divorce and a modest settlement. She's also willing to waive any claim to the business or the house. And if I say no, then we go to court, where her adultery becomes a matter of public record, and she likely gets even less. Her lawyer knows this, which is why they're trying to settle. I'll think about it. But I'd already made up my mind. I wanted this over, wanted Beth out of our lives so the kids and I could start healing. Thursday evening, Maddie found me in the garage working on an old radio I'd been meaning to fix for years. Dad, are you and Mom really getting divorced? I set down my soldering iron and gave her my full attention. Yes, sweetheart, we are. Good, she said, surprising me. I was afraid you might take her back. Why would that be bad? Because she doesn't deserve you. Or us. Maddie sat down on my workbench, swinging her legs like she used to do when she was little. I used to think you worked too much, that you cared more about your electrical stuff than about us. But I was wrong. I did work too much, Maddie. Your mom wasn't completely wrong about that. Maybe. But you worked to take care of us. She cheated because she wanted more stuff, more excitement, more attention. There's a difference. My 15-year-old daughter had figured out in a few weeks what it had taken me months to understand. I'm proud of you, Dad, she continued. You could have just let them walk all over you, but you fought back. You protected us. I love you, sweetheart. You and Danny are the most important things in my life. We know. That's why we're not mad at you for what happened at DJ's party. He deserved it. Friday morning, I called Jim Morrison and accepted Beth's settlement offer. By the end of the day, the papers were signed and filed. My 16-year marriage was officially over. That evening, Randy and I sat in my garage drinking beer and listening to the radio I'd finally gotten working. "So what's next?" he asked. "Next, I focus on being a good father to my kids and building my business. Maybe eventually I'll start dating again, but not for a while. And Beth? Beth made her choices. She'll have to live with them. Think she's learned her lesson?" I considered the question while I adjusted the radio's antenna. I think she's learned that actions have consequences. Whether that's the same thing as learning her lesson, I don't know. What about DJ? DJ's finished in this town. His reputation's destroyed, his business is gone, and everyone knows what kind of man he really is. He'll probably have to move somewhere else and start over. Good riddance. Yeah, good riddance. Saturday morning, I woke up in my own house, in my own bed, without having to wonder where my wife really was or what lies she was telling. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace. The kids and I made pancakes for breakfast, something we hadn't done since before the affair started. Danny seemed lighter, more like his old self, and Maddie was actually smiling again. "Dad," Danny said as he poured syrup on his stack, "are we going to be okay?" "We're going to be better than okay, buddy. We're going to be great." And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it. Sunday afternoon brought one final surprise. Beth showed up at the house, but this time she didn't ask to come in. She stood on the front porch, looking tired and defeated. "I came to say goodbye to the kids," she said. "They're at the movies with Randy's family. You could have called. I also wanted to apologize to you, Mick. Not because I think it'll change anything, but because you deserve to hear it." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I'm listening. I was selfish and stupid and cruel. I convinced myself that I deserved more than what we had, that you didn't appreciate me, that the grass was greener somewhere else. But the truth is, I had everything I needed right here, and I threw it away for nothing. Yes, you did. DJ never loved me. I was just a conquest to him, a way to prove he could take whatever he wanted, and I was too blind to see it until it was too late. I tried to warn you. I know. But I didn't want to listen. I wanted to believe the fantasy more than I wanted to face reality. We stood in silence for a moment, two people who'd once promised to love each other forever, now separated by an ocean of hurt and betrayal. "I'm moving to Boston," Beth said finally. "My sister found me a job there, and I think it's best if I start over somewhere else." "What about the kids?" "I'll visit when I can, but they're better off with you. We both know that." It was the first completely honest thing she'd said to me in months. "For what it's worth," I said, "I hope you find what you're looking for in Boston. I hope you learn to be happy with yourself instead of looking for someone else to make you happy." "Thank you, Mick. And I hope someday you can forgive me." "I already have, Beth. Not for your sake, but for mine. I can't move forward while carrying that anger around." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Tell the kids I love them." "I will." Beth walked to her car, then turned back one last time. "You were a good husband, Mick. I was just too stupid to appreciate it." Then she drove away, and I knew I'd never see her again. That evening, the kids and I sat on the front porch watching the sunset. Danny was reading a book about electricity that I'd bought him, already showing signs of following in the family business. Maddie was texting with friends, but she looked up frequently to join our conversation. "Dad," Maddie said as the sky turned orange and pink, "I'm glad it's just us now." "Yeah," Danny agreed. "This feels right." I looked at my children, these amazing people who'd somehow grown up strong and decent despite everything they'd been through, and felt a surge of pride and love so powerful it took my breath away. "Yeah," I said, "this feels right." 3 months later, DJ Jocelyn left town in the middle of the night, owing money to half the businesses in the area, and leaving behind a trail of angry clients and broken promises. I heard he moved to Florida, where hopefully the locals would figure out what kind of man he was before he could do too much damage. 6 months later, Danny started helping me with simple electrical jobs, showing a natural aptitude for the work and a genuine interest in learning the trade. Maddie made the varsity volleyball team and started talking about college scholarships. A year later, I ran into Mrs. Chen at the grocery store. She thanked me again for exposing DJ's true nature and told me that several families had avoided losing their homes because they'd been warned about his business practices. "You did a good thing, Mr. Parrish," she said. "Sometimes it takes courage to stand up to bullies, but it's always worth it in the end." 2 years later, Parrish Electric had expanded into 3 neighboring towns, and I'd hired 2 additional electricians to handle the increased business. Apparently, standing up for my family had earned me a reputation as a man of integrity, and customers liked doing business with people they could trust. The kids were thriving. Danny, now 15, was already talking about joining the business full-time after high school. Maddie, 17, and headed to college on a volleyball scholarship, had become a confident young woman who didn't take crap from anyone. As for me, I'd learned that sometimes the only way to fix what's broken is to burn it down and start over. I'd learned that standing up for yourself and your family isn't cruel or vindictive, it's necessary. And I'd learned that revenge, when it's justified and executed properly, isn't about hurting people. It's about making sure they can't hurt anyone else. On a warm Saturday evening in June, exactly 3 years after DJ's humiliation at his own party, I sat on my front porch with a cold beer and watched my kids play catch in the yard. The house was paid off, the business was thriving, and my family was whole again. Beth had called a few times over the years, usually around the kids' birthdays or holidays. The conversations were brief and awkward, but civil. She was working as a secretary in Boston, living alone in a small apartment, apparently having learned to find contentment in a simpler life. DJ, according to the occasional gossip that filtered back through Kylie's network, had burned through 2 more towns in Florida before finally settling in some place where nobody knew his history. I didn't waste time thinking about him. As the sun set and the kids came inside to get ready for bed, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this point. It had started with betrayal and threats, escalated through public humiliation and private pain, and ended with justice and peace. Some people might say I went too far, that I should have been the bigger man and walked away quietly. But those people never had to watch their children suffer because of someone else's selfishness and cruelty. They never had to choose between their dignity and their family's safety. I made the right choice. I protected my kids, exposed the truth, and ensured that the people who'd tried to destroy my family faced real consequences for their actions. And in the end, that's all that mattered. The good guys won, the bad guys lost. Justice was served. And we all lived happily ever after.